Greetings, I am Dr. Ann Davis, and my goal is to help you internalize the Greek alphabet. Why should you learn the Greek alphabet? Well, the New Testament was written in an ancient Greek called Koine. Now, I'm not recommending that you learn to read the New Testament in Greek, but if all you know is the English translation, then all you are reading is someone else's interpretation. If you know the Greek letters, you can work with Greek words. You may not know the grammar, you may not know the syntax, but you will be able to identify key Greek words. You will not be working in English with an English translation, which is an interpretation. You will be working with the actual Greek words, and these are key Greek words. You don't have to learn them all, just important key Greek words. Now, what I want to do at this point is I want to take, for example, the Greek word Ecclesia. This is in Greek letters, Ecclesia. And it's actually made up of two words. We see ek and we see klesia. Klesia comes from the Greek word which means to call. Ek means out or to call out. Now what you'll see with these helps is a transliteration that will help you pronounce this Greek word, Ecclesia. But you need to recognize it in the Greek letters, and then this transliteration will help you pronounce it Ecclesia. Now, what has happened here is that the English translation is church. It has translated Ecclesia as church. In English, we have a certain connotation of meaning whenever we hear the word church in English. But in Greek, it means something very different. It simply means a gathering of people. That's all it means. It doesn't mean people who have been saved, people who believe in Yeshua. It simply means a gathering of people. Now let me give you an example here. At Mount Sinai, the children of Israel were an ecclesia. They were a gathering at the foot of Mount Sinai when God spoke to them. Now you're asking here, wait a minute. You know, the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and this is a Greek word. Well, this is another reason for you to be able to recognize just the words, that's all, just the Greek words. Because about 200 years BC, before Christ, there was a translation made in Alexandria by Jews in Alexandria whose Hebrew was becoming very weak because the language of at that time, that was actually during the period of the Greek Empire, which later became the Roman Empire, was Greek. It was that Koine Greek that was the common language throughout the empire. So Greek was their common language, and they were becoming weak in Hebrew, so they translated from Hebrew to this Koine Greek. So what we can do is we can take a word in the New Testament, ecclesia, and then we can see where it is used in the Septuagint translation, in the Greek Septuagint translation, and we can see the equivalent Hebrew word for ecclesia, and that enables us to go back and forth between the two testaments and to bring those two testaments together. So the way you start is just to learn the alphabet, that's all. Once you know the alphabet, you're going to be able to see Greek words, speak Greek words, and recognize Greek words, but you can't do it without the alphabet. So we're going to have to start with the alphabet. Well, what I'm going to do now is I am going to simply go through the 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. You will not be learning them at this time. You're just going to take a look at them. That's all you're going to do is to take a look at them. We start with alpha. Alpha has our small letter alpha and then like a capital letter alpha. When you write, typically it's all written in that smaller case letter. But when you read it, you need to recognize the capital letter. You know, when I learned it, I just learned those smaller cases. I never did learn the capital letters, to tell you the truth. And when I go to Israel today, and there are certain things in Greek, and if they're in those capital letters, I don't recognize them. So I really need to sit down and learn my capitals. So the first letter is alpha. Starts with it's like our letter A. Well, where did we get our alphabet? You know, it's all coming originally. I mean, the Hebrew does the same thing. The Hebrew and the Greek have this similar structure of letters. The Greek is a little bit different from the Hebrew, but not a lot, really. So our first letter is alpha. Our next letter is beta. Now, I think what you need to do here is you need to repeat after me. So let's go back to alpha. What I'll do is I'll say the letter and you repeat it. Alpha. I gave you time to repeat it. Let's do it again. I say it first and then you repeat after me. Alpha. What you want to do is to look especially at that small letter alpha so that you can recognize it. The next letter, repeat after me. Beta. Beta. All right? It looks like a B, doesn't it? And the cursive beta drops below the line, and it's a cursive letter. So we have alpha, beta. All right, the next letter is gamma. Repeat after me. Gamma. Gamma. And again, you're not memorizing them yet. You're just looking at that letter. And it's a cursive letter that you're going to see most often, and that you will be able to write in that cursive letter. The next letter is delta. Repeat after me. Delta. All right, just take a look at it. This is the letter delta. Looks a little bit like our D, doesn't it? Delta. All right, then comes epsilon. Repeat after me. Epsilon. And again, looks like our letter E, and it's epsilon. You're not memorizing at this point. You're just looking at the letters, the name of the letter. And what's important here is that the sound of the letter is tied to the name of the letter. So if you know the name of the letter, you know the sound of the letter. We say epsilon, and that epsilon has an eh sound. Epsilon. The next letter is zeta. Zeta. Repeat after me. Zeta. And again, it starts with zeta, and it has the sound of z. So if you know the letters, you know the sounds. That's all there is to it. The next letter is eta. And that is a letter, eta, but it has almost like a vowel sound. Eta, and it's a very common letter in Greek. So repeat after me. Eta. All right, then we come theta. Theta is like that oblong O with a little line in the middle. Repeat after me. Theta. All right, following theta we get iota. Iota. So it starts with an E. Iota. And if you know the letter iota, you know that name, it has the E sound. Iota. The E sound. And so you need to know that letter, iota, to know that it has the E sound. Okay? Now let's go on to the next letter, is kappa. Kappa. Repeat after me. Kappa. All right? It looks like our K, doesn't it? The next letter is lambda. Repeat after me. Lambda. That doesn't look like our L, but that's the lambda, and again, it's a very common letter. And so it's one that you need to recognize it, you need to know the name lambda, and you need to be able to write that cursive letter lambda. Next follows mu. Again, mu, very common letter. And the capital looks like our M, but what you'll see is that cursive mu. And so that's the one you're going to have to recognize. That's followed by nu. Mu is followed by nu. And again, very common. It looks like a V, doesn't it? But it's the nu. So right now, all you do is you know these letters. All right, that's followed by xi. All right, that's kind of a toughie. It starts with an X, but it's pronounced Xi, so that when you see the Xi, that's how you pronounce it, like a KS. X. That's the sound of the Xi. That's followed by Omicron. Omicron has the ah sound. It's that soft ah. It's not the hard O, it's the soft ah. So repeat after me. Omicron. Omicron. So that gives you the sound of that letter, Omicron. That's followed by P. All right, you're going to be able to remember that one. Because the English word P kind of makes us laugh a little bit, but that's how you pronounce it, P. But the sound of the letter P is like a p, p. It's like our letter P, p, p. And so it's P, but it's the sound like a P, like our letter P. Next comes rho. And again, you're going to be working with that cursive letter, rho, and you need to be able to write it. And it has the sound, rho. All right, that's followed by the letter sigma. Now what I've done here, I need to explain this. On the left, because Greek is written from left to right, Hebrew is written from right to left, but Greek is from left to right like we do. The sigma looks like that letter on the far left. If it's the last letter in a word, it drops that closed circle and it comes down. You see, instead of closing the circle, it just drops down, and that's the final sigma. So those two sigmas you need to recognize and be able to write. The first sigma is in the beginning or the middle of a word, and then comes the final sigma that will come at the end of the word. Then we have tau, which looks like our T. Then in the cursive, it's got that little tail on the right, tau. Then upsilon, upsilon. So it has a sound, upsilon, followed by phi. Now that's sort of like our letter F. That's the sound, but the letter is phi, and you need to know the letter, and that will give you the sound. So repeat after me, phi. All right, that's followed by key. It's like a key that opens a door, key. And in the cursive, you see it's got kind of a little hook on the top left and the bottom right, and that is our letter key, and it has that k sound just like the letter. That's followed by psi. All right, and the sound is just like ps, ps, ps. That's the sound, and the letter is psi. Repeat after me, psi, psi. And then we get to the last letter of the alphabet, which you recognize, alpha to omega, and repeat after me, it's omega. Again, omega. So this has the hard O sound, not like the Omicron, which has the has a soft O sound. Omega has that long O sound. Looks like a W, but it's the omega. Now, all we've done at this point is we've just gone over the letters. That's all we've done. We haven't started to memorize. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about memorizing. The best way I have learned to memorize a language was a method that treated me like a 2-year-old, literally like a 2-year-old. And I recognized what was happening when, fortunately, I was out by myself hiking, no one was around, and I had a 2-year-old tantrum because I was so frustrated. And I literally had a 2-year-old tantrum. But 2-year-olds learn by repetition and mimic. And it's in the sound of the language. And now that's one thing that we're going to do. The other thing we're going to do, which has been very successful for me, is to put together a silly little trick to help me remember the sound. Once I have internalized that letter, the trick goes away. I can't remember the trick anymore. But until I have internalized it by repetition, that trick helps me remember so that I can continue to repeat and to repeat until finally it's internalized. So what we're going to do is we're not going to go letter by letter. We're going to go in clusters of letters. So listen to me here. Alpha, beta, gamma. All right, we're going to take that cluster of letters. Now, let's try our little trick here, okay? Okay, alpha, maybe you can think of somebody you know by the name of Al, all right? And I'm trying to think, like Al is alpha. Alpha, beta, beta, I can't think of anything, and gamma, I can't think of any tricks. I can only think of the trick Al for alpha. But the sound, you've got to get it by the sound. So listen to me do it and then repeat. Alpha, beta, gamma. Alpha, beta, gamma. I wish I could think of some more tricks, like beta, bay. Oh, Al is a bay horse. Okay, well that's a trick. Al is a bay horse. Now how do we get gamma? All I can think of is that my grandmother I call grandma. Like gamma. Al the beta horse was loved by my grandmother. I don't know, but that's one technique that might help you with some of these silly little things that help you. But the most important thing is the sound of the language and repetition. So again, listen to me and then repeat. Alpha, beta, gamma. Alpha, beta, gamma. All right, I'm going to go on to the next two, all right? And we're just going to put those in a cluster. We have delta, epsilon, all right? All right, and again, I don't know tricks. I guess you're just going to have to try to figure them out yourself. But repeat after me. Listen to me first. Delta, epsilon. Delta, epsilon. All right, so it's almost like our English. We have A, B, C. Well, there's nothing for C. It's gamma, alpha, beta, gamma. But then comes D, E, and in Greek, it's delta, epsilon. But don't learn the English letters, learn the Greek letters. So repeat again after me. Delta, epsilon. Delta, epsilon. Okay, now we're going to put them together. Let's look at them. We've got two clusters. We have the first cluster, which was alpha, beta, gamma, and then we took two more, delta, epsilon. All right? So we've got the two clusters. We've got alpha, beta, gamma, and then we've got delta, epsilon. But we're going to put them together now. So listen to me and then repeat. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Now, in true method, treating you like a 2-year-old, let's go back to the first cluster. Repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma. Alpha, beta, gamma. Repeat this after me. Delta, epsilon. Delta, epsilon. Now repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Let's do it one more time. Repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Now, you can go over this again and again, and once you've memorized these letters, you can learn to write them. But don't stop here. You need to keep going. Again, when I memorized the Greek alphabet years ago, I did very well in the first 2/3, and then I got kind of lazy toward the end, and even today I sometimes have a little trouble in those letters at the end. So don't do that. Really get it down pat, these letters. Let's go on to our next cluster. No, let's repeat this one more time. Repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Okay, now let's go on to another cluster. This cluster is zeta, eta, theta. It all has the A sound at the end, but it's starting with first like the Z sound, zeta, then comes eta, which is acting like a vowel, eta, and theta. So you can say them together and they kind of rhyme and go together. So repeat after me. Zeta, eta, theta. Zeta, eta, theta. Let's look at the letters. The zeta, almost looks like a Z with a little wiggle at the end. The eta looks like our N, but it drops down on the right side, but it's the letter eta. And theta is, like that oblong O with the line in the middle. So let's say it one more time. Repeat after me. Zeta, eta, theta. Zeta, eta, theta. Okay, here's what we're going to do now. You should have the first 5, if not completely internalized, at least you're coming along, okay? And so we're going to do those 5 first, and then we're going to add on this next cluster that we've just done. So repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Let's do it one more time. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. All right, now we're ready for our new little cluster. Repeat after me. Zeta, eta, theta. Zeta, eta, theta. Are you ready to do it all together? Let me do it first, and then you do it. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. That was good. I can't hear you, but I'm sure it was good. Let's do it again. Let me do it first. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. Okay, let's do a little reinforcement here. Let's take our new cluster. Repeat after me. Zeta, eta, theta. Zeta, eta, theta. Now let's put it together. Repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. Okay, we're almost done. I've got another little cluster here that I want you to do. And I want to come up, let's see if we can think of a little trick that'll work. First of all, here are the letters. Iota, Kappa, Lambda. So let's see if we can come up with a little trick. Iota. Yikes. Yikes. We've got another cluster. Yikes. Kappa is a cap. And Lambda. Yikes. We're putting a cap on a lamb. It works for some people. It works for me, actually. Yikes, we're putting a cap on a lamb. And again, the trick will hold with you for a while until you've internalized, and then it'll go away. The trick will go away. Yikes, we're putting a cap on a lamb. Okay, but let's go back to the letters. The letters we've got here are iota, kappa, lambda. Listen to me one more time. Don't repeat, just listen. Iota, kappa, lambda. Did the trick help? Cap on a lamb. Yikes, cap on a lamb. Okay, now this time I'm going to say it, and you're going to repeat after me. Iota, kappa, lambda. Iota, kappa, lambda. Is the little trick helping? Let's do it one more time. Iota, kappa, lambda. All right, now what we want to do is we want to put it together with that other little cluster that we're in the process of internalizing. They all have the A sound. So don't repeat, just let's listen here. So that we had the cluster zeta, eta, theta, and then that's followed by iota, kappa, lambda. All right, now you're going to repeat after me. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. All right, let's do it again. Let me go first. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. One more time before we leave it, all right? Listen to me first. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. Okay, now what we do, because we're repetition, reinforcing, we're going to go back to that cluster again. This is our new cluster. So repeat after me. Iota, kappa, lambda. Does it help to remember? Yikes, a cap on a lamb. Repeat after me. Iota, kappa, lambda. If that little silly little trick helps, you need to do those with these other clusters. It helps some people, it doesn't help others. So we've got this cluster iota, kappa, lambda. Now let's put it together with those two clusters. So repeat after me. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. All right, let's do it one more time after me. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. Okay, now let's put some things together here. All right, let's go back to our first cluster and listen to me. I'm going to do it in those two lines because you're kind of memorizing them in clusters, and you want to put those clusters together until eventually they all come together. So listen to me first and then repeat after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. Let's do it again after me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. Okay, that first line, you've repeated so much, you're getting there. So let's just repeat the second line. Listen to me first. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. One more time. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. Okay, let's put our two lines together. Let me go first. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. I think it's probably coming along for you. Let's do it one more time. I'll go first. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. Okay, we're going to add two more letters before we stop for the first part of the alphabet. And these are so easy, I'm going to go ahead and add them. It's moo, nu. Moo is like mooing a cow. You know, the cow goes moo. and nu sounds like moo. So it's moo, nu. You just have to be able to recognize those letters and write them. Moo, nu. So repeat after me. Moo, nu. Moo, nu. All right? So now let's put it together with the line that came above. So listen to me and then repeat. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu. Let's do it again. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu. All right, we're putting letters together. Let's do this one. Let me go first. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. One more time. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. Okay, let's go with the next line. I'm going to start with zeta, eta, theta. So listen to me and then repeat. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu. Let's do it again. I'm first. Zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu. Well, that's easy just to add the mu, nu on. So let's do the whole thing. Are you ready? I'm going first. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu. Let's do that one again. I'm first. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu. Congratulations! You know a little more than half of the Greek alphabet. It's not that hard. We're going to take the other half of the alphabet, get this part down first, and then we're going to approach the other half of the alphabet the same way. We'll make it fun. We'll make it so that it rhymes. It's repetition. It's you know, and it's got some sounds to it, and so forth. And so get this internalized, so you really have internalized and you know it well before you come back to the next portion.